Hi everybody, I'm Tony Salimo and welcome to a special edition of On Campus. And today we're going to visit my radio show, College Hill Perspectives, that I do every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. on WSUS. Now, as the 9/11 anniversary approached, we had a special guest on the radio show, Will Jimeno. He is a Port Authority police officer who was trapped along with some of his comrades underneath the concourse when the North Tower collapsed and the South Tower collapsed. We're going to talk to him about his story on the radio show. Now, Mr. Jimeno was supposed to be a guest speaker at our 9/11 memorial program that you saw here on EDTV Channel 20 that occurred on the 6th of September. However, he had a medical emergency and was unable to be at that program and speak. So in lieu of that, we're going to present his presentation on the radio show, and you'll get that interview in just a moment. Remember to watch On Campus right here on EDTV Channel 20 throughout the year. And also we have other programs coming up. My Skybox Sports Show will be premiering, and look ahead for sports and other events here. And don't forget to listen to College Hill Perspectives Sunday mornings 8 o'clock on WSUS 102.3 FM. Now let's pick up my interview on the radio that aired a couple of weeks ago with Will Jimeno. He is the Port Authority police officer trapped underneath the concourse there at the World Trade Center back on 9/11/2001. So let's hear that interview.
We have now retired Port Authority Police Detective Will Jimeno, who was at the time was actually at the site. He was trapped under the concourse, and then with two of his partners, John McLaughlin and Officer Dominic Perzullo. Later on, Officer Perzullo was killed in the collapse of the North Tower, and Mr. Jimeno is with us today. Will, welcome to the program today.
Thank you for having me, Tony.
Will, it's 8 years already now, and a lot has gone on since then. Why don't you take us back to that moment in time and what happened with you at that point?
Well, basically, September 11th, as most people can remember, that day was a clear blue day. I went to work at the Port Authority Police Bus Terminal in Midtown Manhattan, and basically about 8:45. I seen a shadow come over 42nd and 8th Avenue, covered the whole street, and then a couple minutes later, radios crackled, and they asked all the cops to come back to the police desk, which is a rare thing to happen, because at that point in the morning, it's what we call the rush. Everybody's coming in New York City, and the bus terminal being the busiest in the country, to take every police officer off their posts. Something big had to have happened, and we got back to the police desk, and we saw on the television set that Tower 1 had been hit by a plane, and at that point, one of our sergeants said, that's just not a little plane, those are terrorists. The Port Authority Police, of course, has dealt with terrorism in the past. In '93, we were hit at the World Trade Center, and because of our facilities, we're trained to be prepared for terrorism, but, nothing to prepare you for when it actually happens. And at that point, our Inspector Fields, came into the reserve room where all the cops were and started naming the names off, and we went on to 9th Avenue, got onto a commandeered bus, and we took that bus all the way down to the Trade Center, led by a Port Authority Police Suburban, driven by Sergeant John McLaughlin. And we got down there, and it looked like Armageddon. I mean, we got off the bus, and I remember 2 city blocks back before we got there, we could see people laying in the street. One man was being tended to by an FDNY ambulance, and I remember all the cops on the bus really went silent. We were kind of jibber-jabbing on the way down, trying to figure out what's going on. Nobody really knew what was going on. But when two blocks back, when we saw that gentleman in the street, we knew it was serious.
Right.
And when we got off the bus, it was just, like I said, it was just a sight that I hope no American will ever have to see again here on our soil.
Now, this happened. This is still just the first strike, right, at this point in time?
Well, what happened, again, there was so much chaos and pandemonium going on. On the way down of the second plane that hit, we never knew a second plane that hit. When we arrived, we looked up and we could see the gaping hole in Tower 1, and we saw a piece of the corner of Tower 2 on fire. In my mind, it was just, okay, the impact from the first plane must have threw debris over and caught the corner of Tower 2 on fire. But in reality, there was a gaping hole on the other side that we couldn't see.
Right.
And that, that goes along to what happened that day. We never knew. It took years later for me to actually even find out from the Sarge, what was the plan. I knew we were going up. But our whole main goal was Tower 1. We never knew Tower 2 had been hit.
So at that point, then you entered the building, and then you started going up the stairs. What happened then?
Well, at that point, we were all bunched up. There was a lot of cops. We were on Barclay and West Broadway, and we're about a city block back from the Trade Center. And there was a lot of cops. The sergeants were holding everybody kind of like a stable area, just to let's see what we're going to do. And that's when Sergeant McLaughlin came running from the buildings. And Sergeant McLaughlin is a 20-year veteran of the Port Authority Police. He was an experienced ESU operator, which is the equivalent to SWAT, Emergency Service Unit. Mm-hmm. And he knew the building like the back of his hands because he had been there in the 93 bombing. He helped set up the security afterwards. And this is a sergeant that I had been to different calls with, who I respected. I knew what he was doing, and he came up to the group and asked for volunteers. At that point, myself, my classmates who I graduated with from the police academy, Dominic Pizzullo, Antonio Rodriguez, we volunteered. And he said, all right, let's go. And I remember running toward the buildings and really just feeling lonely because you could turn around and you could just see a sea of blue. Mm-hmm. But they were there and we were going in, and the sergeant needed a small team of men to accomplish his goal, which, again, I didn't know, but his intention was to go get up into Tower 1 and start rescuing people out of the elevator. So we were going to try to rappel down and get people out of there.
Right.
As we ran toward the building, it was just really, really a horrific sight. I mean, there was debris everywhere. There was just a lot of stuff going on, body parts, things falling. And as we got to the building, the sergeant said, Jimeno, take our PR-24s, which are our clubs, our memo books, our hats. We don't need that. Go around the corner to the church of Vesey and drop all the stuff in the Suburban. I remember going up around to the corner, and the first thing that hit me was the amount of people being herded out, literally herded out of Tower 2, mm-hmm. Thousands of people. And then I looked at the Suburban, and the Suburban, which everybody knows, big truck, had been crushed. The front end had been just demolished. Mm. And I threw the stuff in there, and I kind of then started hugging the building because then, everything's happening so quick, you're not realizing, hey, there is stuff falling. There's stuff coming down from the sky.
Right.
And we got inside, and we got into what's called an emergency room, where we put on our gear, which are helmets, oxygen breathing apparatus, the Scott air pack, and the bunker coats. By the time we got there, only Antonio had a bunker coat and a helmet. Me and Dominic, they were just small jackets with bigger guys. We grabbed the helmets and put on our Scott air packs. So at that point, we looked like firefighters with guns on our sides because the Port Authority is cross-trained in firefighting as well. And the sergeant said, let's get downstairs to the police desk. We got to get more equipment. So we went downstairs and got more equipment. And I remember going downstairs. We walked into the police desk. There was a piece of the plane was in the office. And things just don't compute. You're sitting inside the World Trade Center, and here's a piece of a plane that some of the detectives have brought down, as evidence.
Right.
And everything was just happening so quickly that people were just, getting things, trying to figure out what's going on, what is this, what kind of plane is it. And I remember grabbing a mail cart. I started pushing the mail cart. At that point, we hooked up with another officer, Christopher Amoroso, who had just recently been transferred from the bus terminal. And by the way, Chris is one of the officers that the Daily News took a picture of saving people. He had been hit over the eye. It's a very famous picture because before we got there, he had already pulled people out. And we grabbed the mail cart, and Christopher asked if he could hook up with us. And knowing him from the bus terminal, the sergeant said, yeah, come on. So now we became a team of 5. And we started heading upstairs into the concourse. And I remember getting up to the concourse. This is something I want everybody to remember, is the love and the good humanity I saw there. I'll never forget. As we got up to the concourse was filled with water. The marble downstairs had cracked. That's how strong these planes had hit the building, that they cracked the marble downstairs.
Wow.
But there was a single file line coming out from Tower 1 of people. Mm-hmm. And nobody was running. Nobody was panicking. And I remember seeing a black gentleman and a white gentleman carrying this blonde woman who had a severe cut on her leg. I mean, she was bleeding profusely. And they were carrying her in a single file line. And I remember saying to myself, because I tell people this is my opinion. I mean, I don't care what movie you see, what superhero you see. When something really happens, you're a human being, you're scared. I was scared.
Right.
But I was feeding off the professionalism of my fellow officers, and we all kept our cool. But I know inside we were all scared. But seeing the civilians, the way they were helping each other, the way people were helping each other, I remember saying to myself, wow.
Yeah.
We got to be a step